Did you know that if you cut off a cockroach's head, it won't die? Not in a couple of seconds, not after a minute of jerking spasms. It can live like that for a whole week, sometimes even more, walking around the floor, reacting to touch, while being completely headless. Pause for a second and think about that. For a human, losing your head is, of course, instant death. But for a cockroach, it's just an inconvenience. A temporary problem that its body handles surprisingly calmly. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you'll understand why the creature you've spent your whole life trying to poison out of your kitchen might turn out to be one of the toughest organisms on the entire planet, and almost everything you were taught about cockroaches turns out not to be quite true.
Most people look at a cockroach and see something disgusting, dirty, a creature that scurries into a dark corner the instant the light turns on. Something you just want to destroy the first chance you get. But scientists see it completely differently. To biologists, engineers, and even researchers at space agencies, a cockroach isn't a pest. It's one of the most studied survival machines in the entire animal kingdom. And the deeper you dig into how its body works, the harder it becomes to keep seeing it as just something gross under the sink. The first fact is truly shocking. A cockroach can survive several days without its head. Yes, completely headless. How is that even possible? The answer lies in just how differently a cockroach's body is built compared to almost any other animal you've ever thought about. Cockroaches don't breathe the way we do. They don't rely on a mouth or a nose to get oxygen.
Instead, their entire body is covered in tiny openings called spiracles, dozens of them running along each side of the body. And through these openings, oxygen is delivered directly to the tissues that need it. That means even if the head is completely removed, the rest of the body keeps breathing completely normally, without interruption, as if nothing happened at all. In fact, a headless cockroach can survive for 1 to 2 weeks. It doesn't die because it can't breathe. It dies because without a head, it can no longer eat or drink water, and it gradually dies of starvation. Think about that for even a second. The most vulnerable part of the body of almost any living creature on Earth, the head, isn't even the main reason a cockroach's life depends on staying intact. Its entire survival system is built as if it were a backup plan on top of another backup plan. But here's something even stranger. A cockroach doesn't rely on a centralized circulatory system the way we do. A human needs a heart to pump blood through a closed network of vessels to every corner of the body. A cockroach, on the other hand, has what's called an open circulatory system, in which body fluids move much more freely through open cavities, not depending on the head or a single central pump to keep them moving. Remove the head, and that fluid just keeps moving anyway, as if nothing happened. Now, you're probably wondering how it's even possible to move without a brain. The answer is just as surprising, and it's exactly the detail that amazes scientists the most. Many of a cockroach's movements never come directly from its brain at all. Instead, they're controlled by clusters of nerve cells called ganglia, scattered throughout the body, essentially working as several small independent control centers. It's as if a cockroach was originally built with a backup nervous system installed, one that doesn't shut down just because the main processing center is gone.
Losing the head doesn't erase the instructions. It just removes one source of signals, while the rest of the system keeps working exactly as it was designed to. Some researchers compare this to a building that has a central office, but where every floor keeps functioning according to its own instructions, even if the main office goes dark. Picture a huge house where people live on every floor, completely independent of one another, each one knowing exactly what to do and continuing their normal life, even if the building's director suddenly disappears. That's roughly how a cockroach's body works. And here's something that really changes how you look at familiar things. We're used to thinking of the brain as the control center for the whole body, the one and only place all commands come from. But for a cockroach, that idea just doesn't apply.
Its body is built as if nature already knew the head could be lost at any moment, whether from a predator's attack or an accidental injury, and simply built in a backup mechanism for exactly that situation. This isn't some random feature that just happened to appear. It's the result of millions of years of evolution that pushed this creature's survival system to literal perfection. If what you just learned is already changing how you look at cockroaches, hit that subscribe button right now. We cover the hidden science behind everyday creatures every single week, and make sure to leave a comment under this video. Did you know cockroaches could survive without their heads before this video? Write about it in the comments, and this is only the beginning. It gets even more amazing from here. And this is only the beginning. Cockroaches are among the toughest creatures on Earth, and that's not an exaggeration. They can withstand doses of radiation that would kill a human many times over, and a big part of the reason lies in how rarely their cells divide compared to ours. Radiation does most of its damage to the body at the exact moment cells divide. The less division happening at any given moment, the fewer chances radiation has to land a fatal blow. That's exactly why the cockroach became a kind of symbol, almost a joke, of the creature that could survive a nuclear disaster. But behind that joke is some very real science. They're also able to endure harsh conditions that would wipe out almost any other insect, including severe hunger, prolonged dehydration, and long stretches with very little available oxygen. Some species of cockroach can even dramatically slow down their metabolism when resources get scarce, essentially switching into an energy-saving mode until conditions improve again. Their bodies are built from the ground up to spend as little energy as possible, while remaining almost unbelievably tough, running on a kind of biological efficiency that even the engineers studying them don't fully understand. Their flexibility is just as impressive, and it's especially unpleasant to realize if you happen to be the person trying to keep cockroaches out of your house. A gap too narrow even for a mosquito can still be plenty wide enough for a cockroach to squeeze through. That's because a cockroach can sharply flatten its shell, compressing its body down to a fraction of its normal height, which lets it slip through gaps you'd swear were far too narrow for a creature that size. Researchers at one major university even built tiny robots based on exactly this compression ability, because the engineering idea behind this mechanism turned out to be more efficient than almost anything humans had come up with on their own for moving through tight spaces. And now, about speed. For its size, a cockroach is incredibly fast, capable of covering dozens of body lengths in a single second. If a human could move at that same relative speed, but scaled up to our size, we'd be running faster than any car is legally allowed to drive down a residential street. That speed isn't just there to impress people. It's directly tied to the cockroach's escape reflex, a system so fast that the insect can feel the faintest puff of air from an approaching predator and start dodging before the threat is even fully perceived as something concrete. Two tiny sensitive structures at the back of the cockroach's body, called cerci, pick up the faintest changes in air current, and that signal travels almost instantly straight to the legs, bypassing the slower decision-making process that most animals rely on. It's less like a conscious thought and more like a reflex wired directly into the muscles. And that's exactly why a cockroach always seems to vanish a split second before you manage to swat it. If this is already changing how you look at cockroaches, hit that subscribe button right now. We break down the hidden science behind the most ordinary creatures every single week. And don't forget to leave a comment below. Tell us whether you knew a cockroach's reaction speed was that fast. But it gets even more unbelievable. Cockroaches are able to survive serious injuries that would instantly kill almost any other animal. They can lose an entire leg and keep walking, feeding, and even reproducing without missing a single step in their life cycle. Some species can even regrow a lost limb over the course of several molts, gradually rebuilding what was lost. Female cockroaches pass this same toughness on to the next generation. They produce protective egg capsules called oothecae, tough, hardened shells that protect the developing embryos inside from damage, dehydration, and predators until they're fully ready to hatch. In other words, even before a baby cockroach is born, it's already living inside its own tiny suit of natural armor. Think about all of this together for a second. The ability to survive without a head, a backup nervous system scattered throughout the body, resistance to radiation that would kill a human, the ability to squeeze through gaps that seemingly nothing should be able to fit through. speed that outruns thought itself, the ability to lose limbs and regrow them, and even before birth, its own armor protecting it from the whole world. When all of this comes together into one picture, it becomes hard to call a cockroach just a pest. This might be one of the most successful survival stories in the entire history of evolution, quietly existing alongside humans longer than most civilizations have existed. Scientists who study insects often say that if some catastrophe were to happen on Earth tomorrow, capable of wiping out most life on the planet, cockroaches would most likely be among the few surviving species. Not because they're special in the usual sense of the word, but because their bodies were built by nature from the start with exactly these scenarios in mind, conditions that would destroy almost any other creature. And what's especially interesting is that this toughness didn't appear by accident or in a short amount of time. It formed gradually, step by step, over an unbelievably long stretch of time, with each new feature added exactly where the organism actually needed it. Nothing excessive, nothing for show, just pure functionality honed to its limit. And that's exactly why, if you look closely, a cockroach's body starts to seem not disgusting, but rather a brilliant example of engineering, just one created by nature instead of by humans. If you're not tired of being amazed yet, the next part will be even more interesting, because we'll talk about just how many years the history of cockroaches on our planet actually spans, and why that completely changes what we're used to thinking of as ancient. And now it's time to put all of this together and understand what we're really looking at every time we see a cockroach scurrying across the kitchen in the dark. Cockroaches, in one form or another, have existed on our planet for roughly 300 million years. Just take a second to really think about that number. 300 million years isn't just a really long time ago. It's so long ago that cockroaches appeared on Earth long before dinosaurs did. Tens of millions of years before the first dinosaur ever took its first step on this planet. While dinosaurs were still getting ready to appear, cockroaches were already calmly crawling along the ground, going about their business. And then something happened that not everyone survived. Over hundreds of millions of years, the Earth went through several mass extinctions, catastrophic events that wiped the vast majority of all living creatures off the face of the planet. One of these extinctions wiped out the dinosaurs themselves, those enormous creatures that ruled the planet for millions of years and seemed absolutely unbeatable. And the small cockroach, a creature that seems so fragile and insignificant, survived that event. And not just that one. It survived several such catastrophes in a row, over and over, while countless other species simply vanished from the Earth forever.
While other species were forced to change drastically, adapt, evolve into completely different forms just to survive in a constantly changing world, a cockroach's body barely needed to change at all. It was already close to the perfect solution for surviving in almost any conditions the planet could throw at it. And that's not random luck. It's the result of hundreds of millions of years of a design so efficient that evolution simply never needed to change it. Think about it from another angle. Everything we've discussed so far, a brain not being necessary for movement, breathing that doesn't depend on one central point, blood that can flow without a heart as the only pump, resistance to radiation, the ability to squeeze through unbelievably narrow gaps, reaction speed faster than human thought, the ability to regrow lost limbs, its own armor even before birth. None of this appeared in a single day.
It's the result of a constant, slow, incredibly long process of refinement that continued for hundreds of millions of years until a cockroach's body literally turned into one of the most perfected survival machines that exist anywhere in nature. That's exactly why scientists all over the world keep studying cockroaches, and not because they find them cute. Engineers working on tiny, flexible robots capable of making their way through rubble after earthquakes, or reaching hard-to-access places during rescue operations draw direct inspiration from a cockroach's ability to compress its body and pass through narrow gaps. Nervous system specialists study how a cockroach's ganglia keep working independently of one another, trying to figure out whether it might one day be possible to build artificial systems that keep working the same way, even if one of the control centers completely fails. Even specialists who study survival in extreme conditions pay attention to a cockroach's ability to sharply slow down its metabolism and literally save energy when resources are critically scarce. What you end up with is a curious picture. A creature that almost every person on the planet considers disgusting is, at the same time, one of the most studied and respected subjects across a wide range of scientific fields, from medicine to robotics. The only difference is which angle you look at it from. So the next time you see a cockroach disappearing under the fridge or freezing for a split second the moment you switch on the kitchen light, try to pause for a moment before reaching for a slipper. The creature you're looking at isn't just some pest that happened to wander into your home. It's a living descendant of a lineage that was already practically perfected long before most of the animals you're used to thinking of as strong and tough ever existed. And this cockroach is still running that same successful survival formula today, barely changed over millions of years, simply because it never really needed to change. There's something in this that makes you rethink the very idea of strength and toughness. We're used to admiring big, powerful, impressive animals, lions, bears, sharks, creatures whose strength is obvious at a glance, but it turns out that real toughness can look completely different. It can fit inside a body just a few centimeters long, be almost invisible, hide inside ordinary cracks in walls and baseboards, and still remain one of the most successful survival strategies that has ever existed on our planet. And if you think about it even more deeply, there's a certain irony here. We humans take pride in our technology, our medicine, our ability to adapt to any conditions, and yet a simple insect, one that most of us can't even look at without disgust, already solved almost all of these survival problems hundreds of millions of years ago. Problems our engineers and scientists are still struggling with today. Maybe instead of just trying to get rid of cockroaches, it's worth remembering every once in a while that studying creatures like this is exactly how humanity keeps moving forward in so many different fields of science. If this story changed even a little bit how you look at the most hated insect in your house, subscribe to the channel because that's exactly what we talk about here every week. The hidden science behind the things you walk past every single day without ever stopping to think about how they actually work. And finally, a question for you.